So I often get asked about mixing skin tones, and again, I'm going to go back to, if you watched my last video on mixing, I'm going to stick with the Schmincke, this one, and the Winsor & Newton. And one way of actually testing or learning to match skin tones is to use your own arm, literally. So I'm going to put my paintbrush down for a minute, and just using my own skin tones, I'm going to repeat the process that I did before. Offer up the nearest base colour that I can use to get close enough to my own skin tone. When you have enough skin in your hands, they're all different colours coming in. It's very easy to play around with mixing colours for your own hand, arm, knees. So for me, I think my skin tone is actually, in real life, this area is a little bit on the greyer side. So I think I'm going to start with a yellow ochre. I'm just going to check on here. Now you can see again, Naples yellow's a reasonably good start as well. So I'm going to test both of those and see what I can come up with. So, puddle of yellow ochre. So remember, I'm just mixing on the paper just to get myself going. So yellow ochre. I think again a little bit of burnt sienna into there. Actually, I think I've just picked up brown. And a touch of a pink. So again, picking your pink very carefully. I'm going to test them all to see if I can get anything closer. So again, it's not too far off, but if I do this now, can you see how far off it is? So I have to ask myself, is it more yellow? Is it more blue? Is it more green? Is it more pink? Etc. So in this case, I do believe it is a little bit more pink, so I'm going to go with rose, and I'm going to add this tiny amount at a time, just a little bit. So a little bit closer. Now what I'm going to do is, because we're in watercolour, I'm going to actually dilute that out a little bit and see if that's not even closer still. Not quite. Not quite. So now I can go over to my Schmincke. Just before I start with the Schmincke though, I just want to try a little bit of blue into this. So I'm going to start with a little bit of cerulean, and I mean a tiny bit into this, and see if that's not a closer match. That's not bad. It's not bad at all. So if I just put a line of that coming out of there, you can see what that looks like on white paper. But of course, skin is never on white at all, ever. But you can see how close that, just that tiny tinge of blue has made that. So here you can see I've started with Naples yellow base, and I'm going to try, I think the burnt sienna again, but just a small amount, so it's a little bit more on the tan side. And again, we'll try a little bit of the pink. It might actually be too much, but again, that's permanent rose going in, so it's giving it a peachy colour, peachy pink. And again, if I test that on my arm, you can see how white that is. So we're going to tone that down a little with, so again, I'd have to ask myself, does it need to be more yellow, blue, pink, green, or brown? And I'm thinking it's actually going to need a little bit more brown in there. So burnt umber might be the way forward. And again, it's close, but not close enough. So what I will do is to try the blue again, just to see if it knocks the colour back a little bit. Remember, this is quite dilute. It's not bad, but it's not great. I think it's lost a little bit too much of the pink. So again, a little bit more pink. Oh, that was too much. So if I've put too much pink in, it means I'm going to have to put a tiny bit of green in just to knock that back a little bit. So here goes, a little tiny touch of green just to go in there, and there you have it. You can see that's relatively close, and again, if you add water to it and thin that out, we will have something that is really quite close to my own skin tone. It's really worth trying different mixes to get what is close enough to the skin tones that you actually see. I'm going to turn over because what's on this side is a little bit different. So again, I'm going to start with Naples yellow, and because it's quite yellow, I'm actually going to go slightly violet. So a little violet tinge. Just make sure that you have only got a tinge. And always do this tiny amounts at a time. So I'm just going to get somewhere here. Oh, the lights are back on. Okay, so I'm just going to test that first to see what I need or don't need. I mean, it's not bad, but it still seems a little bit milky. So again, I'm going to take a little tiny bit of blue. That was, again, maybe too much. So I might have to start again. But actually, it's not that bad. It's actually quite a good match. So I'm going to go to my hand now, using, let's try the back at the yellow ochre. So a puddle of yellow ochre, make that a little bit denser, and a bit of burnt sienna, give it a slight tanned. Back to the rose, that was way too much rose. So again, I'm going to have to add the green to counteract that much red. And as you can see in my hand, we have got little bits of red. It's too red, far too red. And I have to ask myself, what way do I need to go with this? Do I need to knock it back a little bit? So does that require more green? So we'll just try that. Let me wipe that. Is that closer? Perhaps not. Maybe I've now just taken too much red out. So I can go back a little bit. And this colour is really, really strong. Now, before you carry on adding and adding and adding, just try a diluted mix of it. Dilute it down. Is that actually closer? So you might also find you've got little flecks of violet in these, so I might need to add some more violet. So perhaps there's a little violet touch in there. In there, you might see it. And here, so you can see that that touch of violet has made all the difference. But it really is, start with a base and start tweaking. More red, more yellow, more blue, more green. Ask yourself what it is that it's lacking, and you will eventually get there. So these two were a bit too red, but again, more water, and actually it's not bad. So I hope that's helped with the process of trying to find colours that match the subject matter, or in this particular case we're looking at skin tones. And yeah, you can see that blue veins, you'll be able to get them quite easily once you've got this base, because you'll be asking yourself, well, which do I need to add? So some of you may actually have slightly darker skin, so more olive coloured skin. So what I'm going to do is to start back at basics, and that is to use something a little bit different. So sometimes I like to use green gold. In fact, quite a lot of the time I start with green gold. I will then add a small amount of permanent rose in, and you can see almost immediately you're starting to get some really good skin tones, and you can adjust to a much rosier, so like the end of your nose, sometimes the pads. You can see on my fingers particularly, mine are slightly bluer, so it wouldn't work, but some of you will have slightly rosier areas. And because this is green gold and has a touch of green in it, we can actually use other colours. So this is cerulean blue. So I'm just going to take some extra off the brush so it's not too much. But if I do this with it, take a bit of that, add a little extra of the pink in, straight over that. You can see that the mixture together again gives you some really cool temperatured mid-tones. And again, let's just check that I've picked up the right colour, because I think that's light red. What I want is burnt sienna, so I'm going to put that there. So burnt sienna, dark Kazine purple, just again check that I haven't overdone it, and again you've got some really cool coloured skin tones that could be in any shadow. Let's just use this violet again. We can use a little bit of touch of the blue, and again that'll go a little bit cooler. And I can add a little touch more of the green gold into there. This all sounds very strange colour mixes, but actually when you start to paint portraits particularly, the skin colours can change with whatever it's up against. You will see, let's go with burnt umber now. So let's burnt umber. So I've just mixed all of those together. And again, there's another really good skin tone. So the base of that was still the violet and the green gold. But just playing around with, let's go back to burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is a really good, clean, transparent colour. the same as green gold is. Green gold's obviously more on the yellow side, but again, some brighter tones in there, and I can keep adding to get some more golden tones if I need them. So it doesn't take a great many paints in which to get skin tone, and if you are particularly dark skinned, again, if you go to burnt umber, so I'll use that, I'll use a little bit of violet, and you get this beautiful rich colour. And that's really good for some of the shadow areas, and if you keep upping the brown into it, again you get a nice rich brown, which I've now just plonked into there, but never mind, because again, if I mix a little extra brown in there, you can see you've got more skin tones that you can play with. So it hasn't actually taken a great many paints. Here's one thing you can do to help you with your colour mixing, is to go to your DIY store and pick up these paint swatches. You see, I've got loads of them. I pick them up every time I go, and these are really helpful regardless of the colour. I've got hundreds of them. I pick them up in all different colours, and I taught myself to mix against these. So just playing around with the paint, tweaking with either blue, yellow, green, brown, etc. Just a little tweak of an opposite colour to help me get closer to the skin tones that I actually see. You'll find a lot of paintings might be over exaggerated in the colour than they would be in real life. Many people do paint from photographs, I should say, which of course do over enhance some of those areas. Painting from life gives you much cooler skin tones a lot of the time, and they will be within sort of these ranges. Definitely worth playing around with just this idea, using your hand, using your arm inside and out, using the veins, etc. Try and match up what you've got on right in front of you, and don't worry about anybody else's skin tones. You can always learn to adjust from these with just a little bit of one of the colours that's already there. So I hope that has helped you. I will probably do another one in the future with an actual photograph that I've taken, and show you how to match up again per person, because everybody's skin tone and lighting is different. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and it's helped you get closer to where you need to be.